Welcome to session 6 of Training 101. In this session, we're going to walk back through the strokes that we've worked on, the forehand and backhand counter hit and the forehand and backhand push. But now we're also going to explore the topspin and the value of the most important strokes in table tennis, the forehand and backhand topspin. To get the most out of this session, make sure that you watch 4 tutorials. The forehand topspin against block, the backhand topspin against block, as well as the forehand block tutorial and the backhand block tutorial. First up, let's work on that consistent hitting, but what I want you to focus on today is just making the correct decisions between your forehand and backhand. So we're going to start by just hitting the ball around the table, but making sure that when the ball comes to our forehand area, that we're playing it with our forehand. When the ball comes to our backhand area, we're going to play the ball with our backhand. Initially, we're just going to control the ball on both the backhand and the forehand side, making the decision between whether you're going to play a backhand and forehand. Just working on controlling the ball, tapping the ball back, and making those correct decisions. Fairly soon, as you start to feel comfortable with the switching, you can start to think about those 2 counter hit strokes that we did, thinking about the forehand counter hit and the backhand counter hit. Make sure you're getting the right technique for the forehand and the backhand counter hit with your start position and finish position. Start and finish. Then you can also start to think about just moving into position to make that ball a better stroke. And then once you get comfortable again, we can start to speed up. Those progressions that you've just worked through can be done quite quickly, remembering that you can move on as soon as you feel comfortable. So starting by doing the controlled hitting, just tapping the ball back, making the correct decision between the backhand and forehand, and then moving on to the forehand and the backhand counter hit, and then moving on to doing those 2 strokes, but also starting to move into position and make a better stroke with both the forehand and the backhand counter hit. Our next drill today is to now work on the push strokes. Again, thinking about doing the backhand and forehand push, making the right decisions between when you're going to play the backhand and when you're going to play the forehand push strokes. Jeff is doing the backhand and forehand push and just making sure that he's coming underneath the ball and putting a little bit of backspin on both the backhand and the forehand push. Also notice the good position that Jeff's in. He's got his knees bent and has a nice basic stance when he's playing the stroke. Now we're going to start to move Jeff around a bit. So he's going to need to use his shuffle step to move around the court to get a better position to play the push. Let's now explore the topspin strokes. With the counter hit, we were starting to put a little bit of topspin on the ball, so the ball was rotating forward. Now we're going to explore placing more topspin on the ball by playing the forehand topspin and the backhand topspin strokes. Now, all these is just an extension of the counter hit strokes that you've already learnt. So with the counter hit strokes, we started here, finished at the eyebrow, starting here, finished in the mirror or the selfie position. With the topspin, we're just extending those strokes to start lower, finish higher, and that will generate more topspin. Why is topspin important? Because it means that eventually you can hit the ball faster and the ball is going to dip onto the table better. Without topspin, the ball is going to travel straighter and it's going to either go in the net or off the end of the table once you start to hit that ball faster. So the topspin is going to help us to make that ball dip and go on the table. The first drill we're going to do is the bounce and hit drill. So I'm going to bounce the ball for Jeff, and Jeff's going to practice his forehand topspin stroke. Remembering the basic technique of the stroke, starting low, finishing high, and getting a brushing contact on the ball. Remembering to start with, hit the ball with some topspin, hit it high over the net, but also just hit the ball softly. You don't want to be trying to play this stroke too fast initially, just getting the feel of the start, finish, and contacts on the forehand topspin. And then you can switch over so that Jeff is now going to bounce the ball for me. Next, we're going to move into the topspin against block. Now, this is probably the most difficult skill you've attempted so far, so be patient with it and give it a little bit of time. So Jeff's going to topspin and I'm now going to work on blocking the ball back to Jeff's forehand. With the block, remember you're not trying to hit the ball too fast, just controlling the ball back for the person to practice their topspin stroke. You might find initially that the ball starts to go all over the place and it becomes quite difficult to control it. And that's why just give it time and work on both getting that block into the right position and also getting the topspin technique correct. Next, we're going to move into the backhand topspin. Again, we're going to start with the bounce and hit. I'm going to bounce the ball for Jeff, and Jeff's going to focus on his backhand topspin technique, working on the start position and finish position and the brushing contact, which gives you the topspin to put the ball over the net and onto the table. Now we switch over and it's my turn to do the topspin with Jeff bouncing. The next progression is the block to topspin. I'm going to work on my block and Jeff's going to work on his backhand topspin. Remember, this is difficult, so be patient, give it time to get the block and the topspin correct. If you're struggling with the topspin strokes initially, make sure you're focusing on the contact. I find a lot of players tend to brush up too much and end up missing the ball completely, or they get a really thin and poor contact. So work on making sure that you're getting a nice brushing contact, but make sure that you're coming forward into the ball so that you're contacting the ball consistently. Okay, Jeff, it's game time.
Awesome.
So the game we're going to play today is the topspin to block game. So we're going to play a game where I'm only allowed to play forehand block, Jeff's only allowed to play forehand topspin, and the ball is only allowed to land in the forehand halves on both sides. Once you've finished that game up to 11, you can swap roles, so then Jeff's going to do the blocking and I'm going to do the top spinning.
Sounds like fun.
You can do the same thing on the backhand as well.
Let's go.
So it's my turn to block and I'm only allowed to block and Jeff is only allowed to topspin. Just start with a nice flat long serve. Level.
Yes!
Love one. Okay, Jeff, too good on the forehand, but let's see what the backhand's like. Level.
Yes.
Love one. In this session, we've reviewed controlling the ball, making sure that you're switching at the right time. We've then reviewed our 4 strokes, the forehand and backhand counter hit and the forehand and backhand push. And now we've introduced you to the forehand and backhand topspin. The topspin strokes are so vital in table tennis. If you watch any table tennis players at the higher level, you'll see that basically whenever the ball is long, they're executing the topspin stroke.